See what we choose to show you on social media, but it's important from a space of transparency, from a space of vulnerability. Man, I ain't got it all together. You know, I'm flawed. There's some days that are worse than others, and really wanted to take this opportunity to have a conversation with my brother as we get ready to go into this content creation day at the end of this month of May, which happens to also be Mental Health Awareness Month. And as a black male that has arrived to a space to find that space valuable and continues to unpack, continues to peel the lens, continues to peel the layers of the onion through my own traumas, you know, through my own evils, my own skeletons, if you may, and then daring, you know, having the audacity to want to empower others. And we always say we can't pour from an empty cup. So today we want to pour a little bit of that cup out, be vulnerable, and ask a couple questions. The thought process is for us to show the lens of what will happen and some of the conversations that will happen at the content creation day, which will happen the 28th of this month at American Underground in Durham from 2 p.m. to about 6 p.m. We ask that you guys come out and engage in these conversations. So, Bro Kurt, man, how you feeling today, man?
Man, you know.
It is what it is, right?
Man,
one day at a time.
At another school?
We're out of school right now. Here we are talking about mental health, mental wellness, how it impacts us, and just really having a candid conversation right here in the media room, by no coincidence, right? In the media room at Southeast Raleigh Elementary School, where we encourage, empower, and love on youth from 3rd grade to 5th grade through social emotional learning, character development, and just empowering them, you know, loving on them to see the dope and the great that they have in themselves and helping them recognize that. So, another one. So I'm curious, brother, man, when you're big on the conversation. One, I'd love to talk first about how that space even became important to you. What space in life got you to this place now? Because you've been on Earth for a little while now.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
You know, talk to me about that.
Yeah, man. So I'll start with being a young father. I had my first child at 19. And then from there, it was like, yo, you locked in. You have to be the leader in the home and all the things. But I didn't realize that I was already carrying so much trauma from my childhood, man. So like 2012 hit, and I realized I can't get past some things. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong. And it was in that moment I started to go to therapy and started to have conversations and realized I've been suppressing my emotions for years. Mm-hmm. And it was there where my healing journey started. Okay. And ever since. Now, I didn't talk about it at that point. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it. But lately, I want to be a part of the conversation and breaking the stigma, not for myself, but for others.
Yeah, I love it. You said a whole lot there, but what I heard and what I'd love to hear more from you, and you said I started doing it. You know, you took action. They said the difference between a goal and success is execution, like really saying I'm gonna pull the trigger on this because it means that much to me. I'm curious, from your journey, what does doing it look like? Like, how has that evolved from 2012? Here we are 11 years later. You know, talk to me about that journey.
Yeah, some of the practices I do, meditation, just deep breathing, man. Mm-hmm. I did it this morning. I just, my body, really paying attention, being mindful of my body and the energy and space it's in. Journaling, you know, writing my thoughts out and going back and reflecting on those thoughts. Being very vulnerable, transparent, and open with some of the things that I feel. Now, do I do that everywhere? Absolutely not. But in trusted spaces, I'm willing to have that conversation. Again, the healing journey, man, it's not easy. It's messy. It's messy because you've been holding on to it for years. But those are a couple of the things that I do. Obviously, therapy when I need it has been very powerful. Sure. Being open and honest about not where I am and what I've been through, but where I want to go.
It sounds like seeking help is not weak. It sounds like asking for help should be looked at from the person that you're asking as a benefit, because you could ask anybody. I know in my life I've been indirectly supported and not understood what type of what that support was. What do I mean by that? Like oftentimes when you're in the fire, it's easy to say, put your oxygen mask on first, but there's so many things that are going on around you that are fearful, that are harmful, that may hurt, that you're scared of, and you don't want to take that leap. I know for me, I had people around me that had my best benefit.
Yeah.
Like my grandparents loved me. I looked at it as them being hard on me at 10 because they was older than dirt, and they lived in a different generation. Like the rules in the past that they played and the demons that they had to deal with were totally different. So they did what they knew.
Yes.
Right. All they knew was hard work, and I'm appreciative of that being instilled in me because. Let's be honest, the way this world is evolving, it's evil, and you have to build strong children. Well, we were children at one time as well. So almost redeveloping and reinventing and reintroducing myself to who I am. But I'm thankful that I had that to hold on to. That was an anchor. And I know that that's a piece or a huge piece of what we give back to the youth that we serve now is giving an idea of resiliency, an idea of what it means to go through things and understand that it's not about what you get, but how you process it, and finding healthy ways to do that. Yeah. I truly believe that us being in the space that we're in, I know for me, it kind of adds resolve to my heart. Like that is therapy for me, like being able to connect with a kid and see it not from a judgmental space, but man, I understand, okay. I can get with you on that.
Yeah.
Maybe my story was a little different. Maybe the movie was a little different, but I understand the premise. Yeah. So your feelings matter. So, but how do we move forward from this? How do we take a page from this to not look at it as not just a loss, but find a lesson in it. So I love that. I really do. I'm wondering, for you, those traditional notions of masculinity, right? Like what society, what each chapter of from baby boomers to Gen X to Gen Z, like each generation has its own definition of what a man should be.
Yeah.
Here we are in what some would say softer than tissue paper generation. I don't know, But, so when we and again I say that and we joke about it. Some of the things that we were told, like man up, that was toxic. Like you're not supposed to cry and not be tapped into your emotions. Like you celebrating any space in that, you are a sissy punk. And for those that are 40 up and may have went through that.
They understand.
You may have went through that. If you're 40 plus, you may have heard those words. You may have had an uncle that punched you in your chest and told you to man up. I know I did. I know I did. And now I've got 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. My middle child is my baby girl, and all of them cried because it's Tuesday. And having to be in a space where let me take a step back, and instead of don't do this, why are you doing this, keep doing that, having to consider my language, and now, hey, have you considered? Yeah. Hey, can I suggest something? Hey, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but have you thought about this? And what do you think? What are your thoughts on this matter? Like I got plenty to say, but what are your thoughts on this matter? Really approaching it from if nothing else, of understanding that their voice matters. And not getting to a point where you'll shut down. Like I need you to talk to me, So if I have to engage in conversation differently, or if I have to approach conversations differently, as an adult, as a traumatized, beat in the chest, sucking up buttercup adult, I have to now find a place to make sure that space is available, man. Like how again, you have children as well. Like how has that worked for you?
I think it's the same, man. One of the things I'll key in on is my being a young parent. Mm-hmm. I just parented like my mom parented. Mm-hmm. Now that I look at it, she parented like her parents parented. So, some things had to change within that, and it doesn't mean any of it was right or wrong. But for me, looking back on it and reflecting, I'm dealing with my 22-year-old now, and I've done a lot of unlearning, bro. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of going back in and saying, yo, Dad was wrong. I should have been here in that space, or I should have accepted what you were saying. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to see her now open up and come to me with things that she would have never done before, and it's needed because now that trust is there for both of us in the safe space. So I think a lot of parents, maybe, I understand the relationship, and she had the respect still there, but I want my child, if she can't come to me, who could she go to?
Yeah.
Right? With whatever she's going through, especially as a daughter. And so I think it's important, man, to look at, you asked about masculinity and the layers of it, but I'm a student of life, just as you are. And so looking back in the 60s and the 70s and the changes, first of all, having a foundation of God as a man of faith, what does God say about it? That's what I'm going to lean into. And then I'll listen to all the other rhetoric that goes on. But for me, man, I think less gender and more what works for each home, because every home is different.
Right.
But as a man, I'm going to lead. That's what I believe in. You know what? I'm gonna stand up, and I'm gonna listen more too.
Yeah.
So
I love it. You used a word. You were just talking about. There's a big deal with the work that we do in building bonds with children, and just trust. I believe that that's a cornerstone of any tangible relationship, any lasting relationship, a relationship that's transformational, not just transactional. But I'd really love to ask you, as a black man, how important is that? Because oftentimes we hear that we hold everything in. Oftentimes we hear that, and I have as well. I mean, even as a married man, I have to work on these things and being more, communicating how I feel in a more effective way, and not feeling as if that out of sight, out of mind, because we know that's a lie, right? My mentor says, neglected issues have babies, right? They tend to fester. They tend to be like baby kids. They don't die. They multiply. That's right. So I'm curious, as trust, talk to me about how important it is. I'll speak for myself, like being vulnerable and being transparent for me as a man, as a man that was, again, brought up with the be strong and show no fear, be resilient, and any emotional part of that, it has to be downplayed. I oftentimes hold myself, and I'm hard on myself. Like I find myself not giving myself grace. Like we say it, it's easy to say, give yourself grace. But I find myself where I have to be conscious of that. Like I almost have to be very intentional about saying, hold on, Troy, okay, give yourself grace in that space, but then not allowing myself to just stay there. Like acting on that, creating active grace where, okay, I've given myself grace, I feel good about the situation for me, but how can I now take that same grace and resolve to whoever else is in that situation, or making the situation better, whether that's with my wife or with my children or people in the community or friendships, or building business relationships. So trust, that was my point. Like for me, I'm asking you this question, but that's a big deal for me. Like it really is, because I feel like me showing vulnerability, me being transparent, means that I trust you, that I love you enough to say, this is how I'm really feeling. I'm uncomfortable right now, and I'm in a very a space that I'm feeling many of emotions, but I'm in by choice. I'm choosing to come to you and talk this out. And I say that because where the rage or the anger, or maybe the opposite of the vulnerability and the trust, where the fear and apprehension comes when I feel I'm not heard when I'm in that space, when I feel like I'm being belittled or judged in that space, or I feel like what I'm saying is not being received. It's just being glanced over. Well, that's where the shutdown begins. Now all the trust goes out the window, and yes, that's not healthy, but that's the space that I'm working on. One of the things we talked about when we were earlier was being able to take feedback and not take it personal, right? So trust, what does that mean to you, and how important is it?
Man, a lot of what you said, one of the biggest things, especially with the children, is trust is built on proximity. You can't have a relationship without trust, but we have to be close to you. And one of the things that we've committed to is being consistent. So they can count that, Mr. Kirk, Mr. Johnson, they're going to be here. And not only going to be here, they're going to have big energy, they're going to have a great attitude, and they're going to keep their promise and their word. And so I remember my daughter once, she said it to me, and it was like a spear through my heart. She said, Dad, you never keep your word. Man, And it was and she was right. Now, I would tell her something, but because I was busy or doing all these things, my intention was to do it.
Right.
But in her mind, you didn't do it, I don't trust you.
Straight like that.
And it was at that moment I committed to say, wait a minute, if I say it, you can count on it.
Yeah.
And if I do say it, and now I'm so aware of it.
Right.
So if I say something, I'm gonna do something, and I don't do it, you can count on me before it happens or the time comes. Well, I need this changed up a little bit, but I want you to know that I'm honoring my word by coming back and saying we need to adjust it a little bit. But man, I don't want my name's on it.
Right.
My name is on it.
Yeah.
And so with the kids, they need that, that security, that trust. And some people let them down. We know that. That was some of the things we talked about in our lives.
Yeah.
So we want them to have at least one person. We talked about supports. I think it was they have less than 3.
Yeah.
We want them to know they have at least one support from what we do, where they know that they can come to us and they can be themselves.
Right. That's important. Really important. So what is it's definitely important when building relationships with the work that we do, but what about you personally, like when it comes to trust? That's one of many characteristics, but how important is that in building relationships? How important is that in maintaining relationships? How important is that in even letting people in your circle? You know what I mean? Like grandma said 10-foot pole. Like I could be cordial in that conversation. I can say hi and bye in the same sentence and not miss a beat. I'm energy driven, so to me, trust is a really big deal, and there's layers to it. To me, it sets up the stage for the layers of friendship or the layers of relationship, where you might be on a level 5. You may never get to a level 1, but how important is that, and what does that look like to you?
Yeah, same thing, man. We grew up in the same similar environments. Trust was a tough thing. We didn't give it out because there were so many people taking and hurting you that it was like, I gotta keep this close to me. As I grew older and got a little bit more wise, I said, wait a minute, not everybody's bad.
Sure.
So there's some spaces in my life where I'm pretty open. I'll give you an opportunity to get close based on your behavior, and then I'll put you where I need to put you. Almost like a target or a bullseye. So, we have a great relationship. We've been working together for 6 years.
Right.
You're at the bullseye. Now, the person from that point can move it based on their behavior. So I can move them and but I'm very aware of what that looks like. But trust, man, you can't have a relationship without it.
Yeah.
I mean, I need you to do what you say you're going to do, be who you say you are, and show up for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to do the same for you.
Right.
And that's where it hits me really, is that I know what level of love and faith and hope and all the things I give to people, I need that back, especially for my intimate relationships.
We're going to talk more about trust, about wellness, about the lens. We want to hear perspective, as we continue to lean in and double down on this wellness conversation here on the Bro Code Show. You'll hear more from our guests. You'll hear more from Content Creation Days. You'll hear more from us just sitting down as bros and just having these intimate conversations. We appreciate you sitting down and talking to the bros, finding out a little bit more about us, our intentions, the things that we do, the work that we do in the community, and really hearing the passion of the work that we do and what we do every day. It's not a hobby, y'all. It's a lifestyle. It's your boy, Bro Troy.
Kurt.
And as always, Bro Code.